Hello, Internet, and welcome to another mildly interesting episode of Real Debate. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. Joining me today, we have Nate.
Hello.
And John.
Hi.
So yeah, we finally decided on a name,
Yep.
which will retroactively go back through to all the other episodes, and will be confusing when people get to this point.
And we have arts, fancy arts for the channel as well. So that'll be
I
cool.
just wonder why it's named after something you do when you're fishing.
I thought it was a good pun, and no one else came up with anything else better.
Fair.
Anyways, today we are reviewing the first battle in Dungeon Siege in the Name of the King.
Oh god.
And this movie is god-awful, and I love every minute of it.
I wish that there was enough drugs to in the world to help forget this movie.
I just don't understand how you can make a movie so bad when you have so many actually good actors in it.
Right?
I mean, what's that movie by M. Night Shyamalan where Mark Wahlberg can't act his way through it?
Well, this movie has Jason Statham, Lily Sobey,
Shyamalan.
John Rhys Davies, Ron Perlman, Burt Reynolds, Matthew Lillard, Brian White, and Ray Liotta. How can you go wrong with this? And it seems like halfway through, Burt Reynolds is just phoning it in at this point.
He just kind of gives up. He has like that 1,000-yard stare in his face. What am I doing with my life?
I mean,
drugs worth it?
John Rhys Davies is doing his best to carry us, but man, it is just a steamroll.
Anyways, before I get to describing the movie so snarkily, I would like to address that Dan is not here for a while. I accidentally banished him to the Ultramarine realm. We were playing a tabletop game and we were using cursed Roman artifacts. They turned me into a sexy Roman senator, you know, all that fun stuff. And yeah, it turns out don't play with dark magic.
I told you those dice were cursed.
Yeah, at least the siege wasn't involved.
So the battle begins in a forest for some reason with ninjas climbing trees, and after a pitiful arrow volley at the enemy, everyone breaks formation and goes to fight one-on-one against an enemy that is significantly stronger than the average human that have greater numbers. Meanwhile, Jason Statham is being Jason Statham through the whole battle, wearing no armor and using a boomerang to slice throats.
Epic level character.
After some flippy stuff and strongman stuff occurs, the enemy gets bored and starts climbing into catapults, lighting themselves on fire and launching themselves at the enemy.
Hey, it's a legitimate tactic.
It's pretty much what the orcs do. I mean, sorry, Krug.
They got an A+ for trying to get on a metal cover, an F for thinking that one through.
I see you were killing my men. Two can play at that game.
I mean, they're pretty much expendable troops for the Krug and for Galleon, so we might as well do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, after Jason Statham realizes that the mounted enemies are the ones who are controlling the rest, he starts killing them all. Unfortunately, King Reynolds gets shot after watching multiple arrows land near him, and the battle is over and somehow the humans won.
He actually definitely dodges one by looking at it and doing nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he was taking the George Washington approach.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hit me, I'm too important.
Exactly. That's what the legend says.
He's Burt frickin' Reynolds. What do you expect?
I would like to point out that it is kind of almost charming that the king was shot by the dude who played the main character in SLC Punk.
Yeah, or Shaggy.
Yeah, when did Shaggy become such a douche?
He always was. It just wasn't shown much in Scooby-Doo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just always kind of freaked out. But Matthew Lillard plays the, young and overreacting so well.
So I have one complaint about this battle strategy that they
Only
employed.
one?
I'll come up with more. But starting off, I think probably the most ridiculous strategy that they employed was putting ninjas on the front line. When have ninjas ever been frontline fighters? They're assassins.
Since D&D insisted it was a thing.
Since Naruto.
Also since movies insisted that it was a thing.
I just love that the
But
ninjas
it's
are...
not smart. They're not heavily armored. They can't charge into a battle line. That's not what they're
They-
built
they
to
were
do.
But when
charging
you
the
spin
battle
your
line.
swords in circles, you're clearly creating an indestructible blender.
I was trained in the dark arts, or the Jedi arts by Count Dooku.
I don't think that's how that works.
You haven't seen my undefeatable offense. It's where I spin my arms at you and then kick as fast as I can and just come at you. Clearly unstoppable unless you kick me in the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, besides a lot of the cinematography choices that they use
Camera cut, camera cut, camera cut.
between every half second, you have to assume that, using arrows in the forest is, for one, a bad idea. I mean,
Yeah.
later on,
Especially at the arc that they were firing the arrows, where they're going to travel long distances and go up into the air, you're bound to hit something and throw it off trajectory if you even make it to your target.
I think it was General Aziel, when he came to flank in the catapults, actually, it was actually a good strategy to not get in close with them. And for that particular moment, I have to give him an A in, for one, taking out the heavy support and the catapults,
I mean,
and keeping his distance.
my major problem is who brings catapults to a infantry fight?
Yeah, that's true. To be fair,
They're generally there if you're bringing them along for a siege, if you're
No.
heading towards a castle.
No.
it is called
You
Dungeon
do
Siege.
not bring catapults to a siege. You build them at the siege.
Well, yes.
Historically speaking, you never put them on wheels unless for some strange reason you were showing them off. It was too much work in engineering.
But they
Yep.
took it to the Dungeon Siege, which is the name of the movie.
Which, I don't know why you'd use a catapult in a dungeon, but...
My major problem is that the orc wannabes, what are they, the Krug,
Yeah.
are shown deforming a shield when they hit it. Why are you engaging in one-on-one combat with these creatures?
Right?
The preferred strategies for this are either hit-and-run tactics, arrow volleys, and then retreat and followed by more arrow volleys, or cavalry into their flanks followed by retreating, also known as more hit-and-run. Worst
Well-
case scenario, you should use the longest, sharpest stick available.
They
But
did
doesn't-
have a lot of those. They didn't really use them, though.
Yeah. And it doesn't look as cool.
They were properly equipped for the battle. They just didn't properly use their equipment.
They brought the right equipment, and then the director decided it wasn't manly enough.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't look very cool. You just have a bunch of orcs slam into freaking pikes.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. I mean, we have Lord of the Rings for that, which is kind of a...
Yeah. The other
Very
thing,
knockoff
though,
of
is,
it.
like, with the Krug, they were able to dig underneath everybody, like land sharks. Why not just collapse the ground underneath the enemy forces?
I think they were just pulling an aspect from the game and then not caring to think it through.
Yeah.
Did any of you play Dungeon Siege, the game?
No.
I think I did, but that was like 20 some odd years ago, and I always make myself feel old when I think I can remember something about 20 years ago.
I heard that the second Dungeon Siege was pretty good, the one with the barbarian female on the front with the red hair.
So now wait a second. Couldn't the ninja people, didn't they have control over like plants and stuff earlier in the movie?
No, that's
The
later.
elves.
That's
Oh,
the Trespians.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those are the Tresbians that do that. And
Okay, so they weren't in that fight.
No, the Tresbians are in the other fight, and I just like using the word Tresbian.
It sounds like something else.
Which it's supposed to.
I don't know what that would be though.
Get your mind out of the gutter, chat.
I mean, what else would you describe as a tree elf lesbian? Although calling an elf a lesbian is redundant. I mean, but that's just me coming up with any excuse to call Legolas's dad a complete babe because, god damn, is she hot.
She rides that moose like a boss.
Excuse me, I have some pictures I need to go take down from my wall.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Statham jumping across the helmets of people as well he's clearly a higher level character than everybody else. And
Yeah, but what class is he if he's doing that?
maybe a rogue. Take a lot of points. in
Obviously,
Tumble.
he's a ranger.
No, I thought he's taking points in farmer.
He's an epic level civilian.
You know, I want to make this
Take
just...
some notes, write that down for my D&D campaign. Epic level farmer.
Well, remember the flaw in the game, which is if you reach into a sack and pull something out, there's a 50% chance it'll be a chicken.
Chicken attack!
You know I'm editing that out on principle, right?
That's why you should leave it in.
I'm probably going to leave it in because I had to make that joke, but I hate you, Nate. Another thing is, those ninjas could somehow climb a tree and shoot a bow. Why did they then hop down and attack people?
Yeah, very stupid.
Like, that seems like a pretty reasonable asset to keep up in the air.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
actually have something against that. They ran out of arrows.
Well, why did they only go up there with 3 arrows then?
That's a good question. Because they failed this city?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the worst part is I'm the only one here that's watched that.
We're going to be throwing out so many references and...
I thought that was established. That's what our sense of humor is.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're the little Karibo of podcasts. Anyways, the boomerang slicing throats.
Obviously.
Yeah, have you ever been to Australia?
That's not really a strategic point of debate. That's just Jason Statham. And
No, that's just me trying to get my head around why is the boomerang slicing throats?
It's stuck into a tree.
Yeah. It was going... I mean, what type of...
Obviously a sharpened boomerang.
What type of armor were the Krugs wearing anyway? Was that like bark or mud that was just kind of caked on?
Pretty sure that was paper mache. I mean, based off of how well it was stopping the weapons, it definitely was.
I mean, the Krug general survived like 20 arrows and...
Isn't he like hollow though? Isn't he just like being controlled by the wizard guy, like a suit of armor?
Yeah, which is pretty cool actually. I really like that aspect of it.
I will give the movie props. That's a really cool thing of just like, hey, enemy is body swapping and you can't really do anything to stop him, just slow him down. I mean, that's kind of the point of the agents in the Matrix, but it's not something that's really explored in movies. It's the few movies I can think of that do it, it's just kind of a plot thing of like, oh, you can defeat me, but you can never stop me.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious though, as they don't really explain very well what the wizard's extent of his powers are. Like, I feel like he probably could have done something slightly more useful.
Well, the extent of his powers was he believed in himself, therefore he had power.
Yeah, it's your belief in the king. That's where your power came from. And so because he was the king of the Krugs, he had almost absolute power.
Well, how come Burt Reynolds doesn't have powers?
Because he's not a mage.
Yeah.
But he's the king.
That's when America has the power, and that's when he fights him one-on-one, and that's when his daughter comes in and helps Jason Statham out later after Gravis dies.
Yeah.
So I also just wanted to bring up this point is those ninjas were dual wielding.
Yep.
There is no known instance of any battle where people dual wielded.
Nope. That was for dueling.
Yeah.
I get it.
At best, generally, when going for a one-on-one duel using 2 weapons, you used a short weapon, generally a dagger or something along that length size, and
Or a blade catcher.
It was pretty much used to deflect the enemy's weapon so that you could go in for a thrust.
Yep.
But yeah, you never use 2 weapons of equal length. Humans are just not coordinated enough for that shit.
But they're ninjas.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
And they're going against the, somewhat heavily armored Krugs as well, where you want more power behind it as well, rather than 2 weaker attacks.
You wouldn't want to use bladed weapons at all against that. You would want to use something along the lines of a mace, because the mace will transfer its kinetic energy through the armor into the bone, shattering it or breaking it.
A pike would actually be more ideal for them. You can trip them, get them off balance.
I mean, as I said, either long pointy weapons or hit and run tactics.
Those nice pikes that have the hammers on the other side. Those were great.
Yeah.
Which comes down to the point of,
you need special
blunt weapon that is used to not penetrate armor, but to break whatever's underneath the armor.
And that's where scouting out your enemy is really important to do, and clearly none of that was done. Although kind of getting on that point, it is to say that the Krug side and Duke Fallow's side was assuming that they would have 2 more legions with them, but they switched sides when they found out that Burt Reynolds was still alive through it. And because of that, it did help balance out the tide of war, where the Krugs could have just overran them.
Mm-hmm. I think they should have executed the Shaggy.
Shaggy.
Honestly, like that would have been a great display of discipline, and also, to help build the morale of the troops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just kind of leave that plot line and just drop it immediately.
Yeah, like many other things in the movie.
Also, I want to bring up, what are those fires made of? Because a Krug on fire walks up, taps a guy, and the guy is on fire.
I think it's the building blocks for Explodium. They're working on that technology.
Obviously, it's Firaga from Final Fantasy.
But seriously, those fires spread only on people.
Yeah, not the trees. Not the trees.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we don't know how much rain has been involved in that area, although...
The other thing, too, like, if they're going to use a catapult, if you're going to use it against infantry, why are you firing large single trajectories? You should be using something akin to, like, a grape shot.
Well, they did show that the catapult was, the boulder was exploding, but that just may have been cinematography. But
Yeah.
firing the Krugs and then having them get up, getting in the back line is actually a pretty good idea because it's shock tactics and it's something that they wouldn't expect.
I wouldn't call it a good idea. I'd call it an idea.
Yes.
If your troops can somehow survive that, sure, why not? Especially when they aren't sentient and no one cares about them. But
if the lines weren't already broken, then I'm sure it would help break it, but...
those
really,
lines broke in 5 seconds before the battle started.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they didn't even hold formation.
And I gotta say, WrestleMan Theater does a lot better work with all that flippy stuff.
Rather than, switching shots 6 times every 2 seconds.
Well, if it's WWE, they do that.
Yeah.
Seriously, stop doing that, WWE. This is why I want to go to watch New Japan.
This is our platform for talking about WWE.
Yeah, soon this will just be replaced. We're going to pretend to watch a movie and then just talk about wrestling and trick everyone into watching a wrestling podcast.
Well, we can start watching stuff that has John Cena and The Rock, the Dwayne Johnson.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, jabronis.
Do, do, do.
Can you smell what the Dwayne is cooking?
Anyways, that's all I've got in my notes. We've covered most everything quite well.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just mostly us being extremely sarcastic about this fight because...
Isn't that kind of the platform of this, of be a bit sarcastic?
Hey, thanks, Captain Obvious.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, should we grade the armies then?
Sure.
I mean, what's there to say? An F for the humans. They didn't at all try to maneuver the enemy into advantageous ground. They didn't...
They flanked them.
Barely. They didn't use anything resembling a tactic. I don't know how they won, to be honest. I guess because the plot demanded it.
Yes. I actually give the Krugs a C because it's mostly Galleon that's controlling things, and he controls his units very well. The generals that are it, he tries to take out people that are important on the side of the humans, and he was assuming that there were going to be more humans on his side, so a tidal surge of troops against them would have been better.
I'm still going to give him an F because he just let his men run at the enemy. Like, that's kind of okay because, one, they reproduce quickly, or it's implied they reproduce quickly. Two, they have a lot of units, but, he's still not applying them effectively
No.
and taking unnecessary casualties.
It still takes time to outfit and equip soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have them ready to be presented at a battle.
But with the Krugs, you don't really have to lead them, and that's the thing, is they kind of do their own thing. And
Disorganized.
yeah, because without the central leader, then they wander
Like
on.
Zerg.
Yeah.
I gotta give both armies a D. I give the humans a D just for preparation, They had superior equipment. They had formations. They had everything that they needed to make that battle go very smoothly, and then just completely failed to execute on
And they dropped everything on the ground, unorganized, and decided, good enough.
But
Yep.
the preparation was correct. I give the Krugs a D because they were not prepared and they tried to do things. They made some ends meet, but ultimately not capitalizing on the strengths of their units by any means. I mean, if you have the ability to tunnel run the enemy, utilize it. More, like, make that your main strategy. Like, that would be way more effective. And, you know, just rushing in their headlong with brute force, that's cool and all, but they also had horsemen. You know, why don't you have the dudes on the horses lead the charge? They're heavily armored. Those horses were wearing some crazy armor. A pike would have a hard time finding a good spot to get through the armor on just the horse.
And it was only
Take
Jason.
those out.
It was only Jason Statham that took out the two
Yeah.
generals as well.
Yeah, they should have led with the horses, and then had the units follow in behind to clean up people as they get knocked over.
Yeah.
I will give props to how indestructible those generals seemed. They were tanking arrows.
Like they were like porcupines. They were
Like,
looking like
The wizard is going through the effort to not be present at the battle, to have sacrificial soldiers that he can just replace and take over new ones. Why not utilize them better? If that is the strength and keystone of your whole army, why not make that the primal focus of it, you know, the prime focus of it? Not let it go to waste or dawdle in the back and then get taken out by Jason Statham with the boomerang.
Yeah.
Unless it has, like, I don't know, I'm assuming there's like some type of like aura of control that he has to maintain or something. I don't know.
I assume that's something, or maybe it's explained in the Dungeon Siege games. But
Yeah, I don't know.
we're not privy to that information, nor are casual watchers of this movie.
So, any other talking points about this movie? I think we've covered everything for this battle, I should say.
I think that concludes it pretty well.
Well, then, what do you think? Are we blithering idiots? We missed something? Do you agree with us? Let us know.
Bye!